Hey there, this is That News You Care About, a weekly video game news show from the folks over at That Nerdy Site. Today is Monday, August 24th, 2020, and I'm one of your hosts, Logan Wilkinson. Joining me this week is my Phoenix son, Trevor Starkey.
Hello.
How you doing, Trev?
I'm doing all right. We had a DC fandom over the weekend, which is going to be kind of the crux of this episode as well. Cam and I talked about that on this week's That Nerdy Site show a lot. So it was a good like chill weekend, and then there's just some cool DC stuff coming and whatnot.
It's an exciting time to be a DC fan, which feels good to say after a rough past few years, I will say.
Pseudo-related, I mean, because it will eventually be related, especially on the movie side of things. I just saw, right before we started recording, news that Alamo Drafthouse is like getting ready to open back up, including the Alamo Drafthouses here in Phoenix, which had filed for bankruptcy months ago. So apparently they're I don't know what happened, but they have put tickets on sale for stuff like Tenet and New Mutants and stuff like that. I have no intention of going back out to the theater anytime soon, but good for them for trying to get back into business. I hope everybody stays safe out there.
The Alamo Drafthouse, the ones in Austin, what they're doing is basically you and like a group can rent out a private theater.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
And so this is a tease for, I'm sure, next week's That Nerdy Site show, where me and a group are doing that. I think the max you can have is 10 people because you have to be socially distanced kind of thing. And right now there's going to be like 6 or 7 of us.
Okay.
And so we're going to see, and you can pick any movie you want out of like this list they have. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to watch in theaters Jurassic Park, the original. Nice. I know, and obviously I was 1 year old, I believe, when it came out, so I've never seen it in a theater. And so, like, as somebody who's like top 7 favorite movies of all time, is probably Jurassic Park is in that list. Like, I am so incredibly excited to see Jurassic Park, and also just like to go to a movie theater, which is an experience I like. So it should be fun.
So I remember going to see Jurassic Park in movie theaters and being too scared by the opening sequence that I basically had my parents we got up and left and went and saw another movie. I don't remember what other movie we went and saw, but I was basically too scared by the opening scene with like the raptors and stuff to stick around because it was 1993, so I was 8 and I've never been great with scary stuff, and so kid Trevor was also not great. Like I was fine with it by the time it came to like home video and stuff, and I wasn't being surrounded by loud scary noises and stuff and could watch it with all the lights on and all that. But it's like I have that distinct memory of that being one of the very few movies I've ever actually like quote unquote walked out of, and it was just because I was a kid and it was too scary for me, so we went and saw whatever Disney thing was probably playing next door.
I think the only movie I've ever walked out of wasn't even an instance of me walking out of it. It was an instance of like the movie just ceased to work properly. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like Shiloh. It was like some talking dog movie with like a young boy, I think played by like Frankie Muniz. And me and like my mom went to go watch it, and the projector basically stopped like 5 minutes in, like 3 or 4 times, and they were like, "All right, everybody, here's your money back or whatever." Probably, I don't know. I was like 7. Go watch something else. And so I just remember like having to like leave that and then go down the theater to like watch another movie, which I also don't remember. But Frankie Muniz ruined my Tuesday evening.
I remember when I went to see, I think it was Deadpool with my sister. We went and the trailer for Suicide Squad came on, speaking of, and we thought it was this like super meta thing because as soon as the Suicide Squad trailer came on, the fire alarm in the building went off and we had to evacuate. And it turned out it wasn't like a meta marketing thing from Deadpool, basically saying like "F you DC." It was oh no, the like something in one of their storage rooms had caught fire, and they basically had to evacuate the building. I think we ended up being able to. I think they just ended up giving us passes, but I think they invited us to stick around for like the next screening if we wanted to. And I'm trying to remember, like my sister and I might have done that. We might have gone and grabbed like food and drinks and caught up and stuff, and then we went back and saw Deadpool. I don't remember, but it was a very weird kind of like similar-ish story, I think.
I did some research. It was apparently the film My Dog Skip, starring Frankie Muniz, that I watched. Also, as a final note about movies and not video games on this video game podcast, I think the only Jurassic Park movie I've ever seen in theaters is Jurassic World. Was the first Chris Pratt one, I think, right? Is that?
Yep.
I watched that one. Spoiler, it's terrible. But all the other ones I was too young to have seen at the time. Because even like Lost World, I'd only been like 3 or 4, and then the last of the original trilogy, I was like 7 or 8 probably, so it's just been time to go watch it. So I'm so stoked. But anyway, enough about...
Looking through, I think I might have seen either Dennis the Menace or Last Action Hero instead of Jurassic Park.
Oh, Last Action Hero, I hope it was... I mean, Dennis the Menace is also a great movie.
It was probably Last Action Hero, and I probably enjoyed it way more than, like, most of the rest of the world did at the time. Especially because, like, up against Jurassic Park, it got, like... just taken away, but it has become one of those, like, just like Mystery Men. I feel like it's one of those, like, very kind of cult classic-y kind of films from 10 20 25 years ago, whatever it's been.
That's so good. Because it was Jazz who had never seen Mystery Men, is that right? Or you had?
No, I'd seen it. It was I think Ben and Chloe hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
Mystery when Jazz went and did it on Wannabe Film Class. Yeah, I like when Jazz brought it over, I was like, I loved Mystery Men. It wasn't a great movie, but I remember watching it a lot when it came out.
But anyway. enough about movies on this podcast. Let's talk about video games. In particular, as you mentioned, DC had its DC fandom this past Saturday. It was 8 hours long, I believe, was the final countdown. And a lot was revealed.
I think it was a full day thing.
Yeah, what we're concerned about are WB Montreal and Rocksteady's 2 kind of game announcement reveals, teases, show off, whatever you want to call it at this point. And we'll begin with Gotham Knights being revealed. WB Montreal, the team behind Batman Arkham Origins, newest title. Basically, the short synopsis pitch: Batman's dead. He's gone. He's out of the picture. Kicked the bucket. Blown up. And you play as Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl, or Red Hood, kind of picking up the pieces, finishing up where Batman left off. It's also got a Court of Owls intrigue and plot stitched on there as well. It is both single player, which was a big kind of news piece, and co-op multiplayer. Trev, what are your thoughts on everything involved in Gotham Knights? Both the actual game, the story pitch, and then its long-awaited reveal.
So yeah, this is obviously we talked about and alluded to this last week in kind of talking about just that and the fact that it was finally being teased and we were finally going to get to see it. I was kind of meh on it overall, especially when it was revealed and with such a heavy co-op focus. I was like, that's not... I feel like co-op always sacrifices something, and in particular, I talked with Cameron about this as well this week. My issue tends to be, or my concern is that I love the Arkham games for their story and for their Batman story, and you can tell that when you are dictating, like, the player is playing this character throughout the whole game, or for these sections they're going to go play as Catwoman or something, and we can kind of tailor the story to that. When it's choose which character you want to be, and basically like, oh, they're building a campaign around that archetype, and your character is going to throw in quips or one-liners or something like that based on what's happening around you, I feel like the characters of the Bat family aren't going to get as well fleshed out as a result. I feel like it's the analog I made with Cam is like Borderlands 3. I can enjoy a Borderlands story, but I'm never enjoying it for the player characters. Like, the player characters are just a moveset. They're not, eventually with pre-sequel and with Borderlands 3, they made it so the characters actually did, like, interact with the story and kind of threw in custom tailored one-liners to them, but they're still largely just kind of, like, they're not characters so much as they are avatars for the player. So much so that in Borderlands 3, like, your character doesn't even show up in cutscenes, much to, like, just the bewilderment to everything. So that's my fear with Gotham Knights, is that it's gonna be that kind of thing where it's like, since I can go in and I can play as Batgirl, or I can play as Red Hood or Robin or Nightwing, I'm not gonna get too different of an experience playing as any of those different characters. I'm not going to get to, like, really dive into what made Red Hood, and Jason Todd's kind of past. Like, that's not going to be explored as much, because what's the analog for Batgirl in those same scenarios and stuff like that. So that's my concern for it. I do appreciate that it is, like, they are allowing single player, because I will most likely play the game as single player unless, like, you and I team up and do a co-op run of the game. Also, the fact that it's 4 characters but it's only 2-player co-op.
That's the one I was more.
Yeah, like that also feels like it feels like a half measure, basically. It's like, okay, they clearly created this thing with 4 people in mind, and then maybe realized, hey, it's tough for a lot of people to get a squad of 4 together to play through a game, so maybe we shouldn't worry about that. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of all my thoughts. As far as, like, the Court of Owls stuff, seeing it, especially as it's presented in the trailer, makes me think more than ever that that's how the Nemesis stuff is going to be kind of implemented into a Batman game. Is that, like, the Talons will be, members in the Nemesis style kind of gameplay, where you'll have run in against them, and then they'll if they win, or if they win, cool, that they power up or whatever, and you have to avenge yourself or something, or if they lose, they run away and get stronger and come back, and like, I think there's potential there. Again, I don't know, just we talked about last week, I don't know the Court of Owls storyline as well, so I can't speak to any specifics about that, but, like, hearing other people talk about it, it seems like they're going to have to make some significant departures anyway, based on the story that has been presented. So yeah, I'm not sure how it'll all pan out, but like, I'm sure I'll play it. I'm just, like, I'm not over the moon, like, excited about it. I have to have this now. It's like, it's coming out 2021. Cool. I hope it comes out at a slow time. We're not, like, pulled in other directions and can enjoy it kind of when it comes out. How about you?
Yeah, it's interesting for me because I love the Arkham games. Asylum and City in particular, 2 of my favorite games of that generation.
Also worth noting, this one specifically is not tied to the Arkhamverse.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that in Suicide Squad for sure.
Yeah,
it's not tied to the Arkhamverse, but it is definitely the one that seems more tied to the Arkhamverse. But it's interesting because it's definitely, out of the 2, the one that I'm personally, I think, more excited about, more interested in. Like, both playing it through solo, or also teaming up with, like, you, to kind of tackle through the campaign as well. Like, that is an idea that I like. I like Robin, Batgirl, Nightwing a lot. There's a character that I really enjoy. Red Hood's also nice. And I think the Court of Owls angle is interesting, if I still have a lot of questions how it can be kind of implemented without Bruce Wayne involved, because he is so kind of integral to the Court of Owls storyline. I also am very much of the belief that, again, it was like a funny...
that he's not really dead?
Yeah, it was a funny Twitter thread where, like, somebody's talking about, like, a few different internet, like, video game personalities talking about, like, what act he'll show up in.
Yeah. And he'll be the Captain America of that game. Just like in, like, everybody's like, Captain America's not really dead in the Avengers, everybody. There's no way but to that, at least in, like, Avengers, there's, like, a justification for it, in that, hey, like, there's no way they would spend that much time building out a moveset and, like, a level up set for the character to just show up in the prologue. But in this, I could absolutely see them, like, sticking it out and it not being a Batman game and it being a Bat Family game. I don't know if that helps them sales-wise, though.
I don't think you'll necessarily ever play as Batman. I think Batman I think there's virtually no chance Batman is actually dead in this game. One of the more interesting ones I thought, which I kind of agree with, is that like he basically he kind of saw where the Court of Owls was going and like faked his death, and then will like basically go like investigate further without like them on his trail, and then we'll pop up, I would assume, probably in the third act, or like the final climax, and then like we'll pop back in, and then in Gotham Knights 2, let's get Gothamer. He'll be like a playable character in that probably, or maybe he'll just be like an Alfred character who like it's still like the core kind of Bat Family quartet here, but he's like fully involved throughout the game, giving you like advice and gear.
Well, here's the pitch then for Gotham 2 Furious.
Ooh, nice. That's good.
The tease that you get at the end of Gotham Knights is they meet a guy and they're like, "What's your name, man?" And Will Friedle comes across and he's like, "Terry McGinnis," and you get your Batman Beyond game finally.
But like, here's the thing: we're in the dark timeline, so we can't get nice things like that.
This won't be a 2020 thing, so.
That's true. Maybe we live in a paradise and Joe Biden's president. I think I would love. I mean, like, part of me still somewhat selfishly just wants one of these two games to have been a Batman Beyond game, or just like a more classic Arkham game where like these are both kind of like. Certainly Suicide Squad is a more multiplayer focused game, but even this one seems to be like it's definitely like the co-op aspect, and it just seems more multiplayer focused and less like a heavy focus on the story. And so I would have loved just like a Batman Beyond game, or just a regular Batman game where it's like, get that story and narrative. But
there was just real quick on Batman Beyond. I saw as part of like the DC fandom stuff in between segments, there was a little like. It was almost a Mystery Science Theater kind of thing, or Riff Tracks kind of thing, where it looked like Kevin Conroy and Will Friedle were being old Bruce and Terry, watching Adam West Batman and commenting on everything like Riff Track style. And I was like, I don't know if they just did that for fandom, or if it's like they were trying to tease, Batman Beyond something or other. But it was a cool little thing I saw kind of in the background during some of the events of Saturday.
I love that. That's what I gotta say. Batman Beyond is great. But yeah, I mean, like on the whole, I think this game is. I mean, like I think this game's gonna be good. I would say I'm definitely more like optimistic than you, because like. Worst case, if what we get from this game is just a Borderlands 3 style, like, pick your characters and just, like, explore and plow through Gotham City and solve a Court of Owls mystery, like, co-op, that still sounds awesome. Like, I'm still here for that, right? Like, yeah. I just love Gotham City in the world. But, like, if we do get if they are able to somehow, like, weave a really cool, compelling narrative while making it, like, you can play as any of these four characters and still kind of give each one of them, a couple moments. But like, it's not going to be like Arkham Asylum or Arkham City. It's just not that kind of game.
Yeah. And that's what I'm like sad that I'm not getting. Yeah. I guess is like I have no doubt that like it'll feel fun to play and combat will be great and like all the characters will be fun to play as. And probably like the overarching story will also be a really cool story. It's just I will miss that character element that like is one of the things that makes Arkham Asylum and City especially, and even Night, like just like above and beyond a little bit, because they're all focused on Bruce and Batman and like his struggles with the world around him, versus generic Bat Family member and their struggles, because we're not telling you Batgirl's story, we're telling you one of four people's stories.
Yeah. I think, and it's interesting too because, I mean, I am someone who has like Barrett Courtney level affection for Asylum and City at the very least. Where like I mean, City is legitimately probably like, the Twitter like 7 favorite games of all time thing. Like it'd be on my list. Like I love Arkham City. It's just one of my favorite Batman stories. Period. And Asylum was like my first really in-depth like PS3 game that I went crazy for, and like essentially platinumed without getting the platinum because it's a bullshit platinum trophy. But like, so in that way, like, I'm saddened, but this at least still feels and has like traces of the Arkham thing, right? And like I'll take that as like the bridge to transition over to the second game announced, which was Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which comes out a year later. It's currently released for 2022. And this one is much more multiplayer focused. It's, Harley, Captain Boomerang, Deadshot, King Shark taking down Superman and presumably the rest of the Justice League based on the title. And this is the one that is apparently set in the same universe as the Arkham games. Somehow was kind of the joke I put in the doc. I have no idea how this fits in. It doesn't make any sense to me that it's set in the Arkham universe. But this is the one that I'm much more like. I watched the trailer and was like, okay, like I would have been more into this game if it had just been a Suicide Squad game and I didn't have to kill Superman or try to get, or like whatever the fake Superman storyline. I'd have been way more into it if it wasn't for that. And even still, like it's just like a very different kind of game that they're making Rocksteady from what they've done in the past.
Yeah, this is one like I like the trailer and I like the humor that they're going for in it. But like of the two, I'm like as quote unquote down as I am on Gotham Knights, I'm more interested in Gotham Knights than I am in Suicide Squad. Just based on like I'm not overly eager to play as like those characters. At least like with the Bat family characters, I feel like I'm playing like the hero and I'm trying to take down the bad guys. I don't necessarily know if I'm interested in doing the other side of that coin and playing as the bad guys and trying to take down the good guys who are just happen to be bad because Brainiac is controlling them or whatever. I don't know. Like I definitely feel like some of my Suicide Squad thoughts are absolutely tainted by the movie just being bad and just being like I don't
real bad.
I don't know if I care about that. I enjoyed what they showed of the James Gunn Suicide Squad, so maybe that'll all turn around. And I'm really enjoying, as we talked about on that news or that Nerdy Site show last week, I'm really enjoying the Harley Quinn show, the animated show on DC Universe now on HBO Max, which has like Harley and King Shark in particular, but they're also just they're not being this interpretation of these characters, so I don't know like how much I'm gonna care about wanting like this even more so feels like a Borderlands kind of thing where it's like okay, like this could be good if and it might have some funny like comedic moments in its gameplay. Like it'll be the Borderlands version of the Avengers game that you're getting that we're getting here in a couple weeks, it seems. And I don't know if I just don't know if playing as the bad guys is as much of a draw and as I'm looking for. And it's interesting because again, like with both these games, you're releasing 2 Batman games without Batman in them, ostensibly. And how is that, like, is that going to work based on our conversations last week? Or has, like, DC kind of, like, dropped the ball so much in getting their characters out into the, the wider pop culture medium? Like, is King Shark going to be a selling point? Is Deadshot, is Captain Boomerang going to be a selling point? Harley will be a selling point, fine. But, like, would this have been a more interesting game if it had been, like, a Justice League trying to take down something kind of game?
It is... That's an interesting point you brought up that I hadn't really even thought about, the fact that, like, for people who played through the Arkham series of games and loved those, I mean, those games are critically acclaimed, people love those games, everything. And then WB Montreal and Rocksteady both go quiet for essentially like 6 years, right? Like since 2014, I think was Arkham Knight.
2015, and so, I think.
2015. So 5 years. So 6 years by the time Gotham Knights will come out. 7 for Suicide Squad. And it goes quiet. Nothing that's Batman related. And then they finally come back, and neither game potentially will have Batman as a playable character even. And I mean, really might not have him in any big role at all. And it's like, it is a weird thing to be like, these two studios who both made great Batman video games, and their whole thing is Batman, and then neither one is doing a Batman game again after a 6 and 7 year wait. And it's like, all right, that does kind of suck a little bit too, where it's like, I would just love a like I've already waited 6 years for a Batman game. Like, give me a really dope Batman game again. I've been satiated for this, right? Like,
yeah,
it's a weird thing for.
I was just gonna say, I get Rocksteady wanting to step away from Batman in the same way that Sucker Punch wanted to step away from from Infamous, and so
Naughty Dog from Uncharted.
Yeah, and so getting to kind of I applaud, I guess, the broader WB Games publisher for kind of giving them that leeway, but staying in the DC universe and choosing this as an option, I wonder if, again, going back to our conversations last week, if there are just other things that they tried and didn't work, and that's why it's been so long, is that this was the first thing that they finally got to stick, or it's the thing they got to stick enough that they were like, okay, well, let's make a game and ship it. Yeah. And
part of it for me now, just thinking out loud, is the fact that it's been, the DC universe as a whole is really kind of blown up, I guess, for lack of a word. Not necessarily super successfully, but has kind of blown up in the wake of, the Arkham trilogy quartet, I guess, with Origins, and the Chris Nolan trilogy, Batman films and all that stuff. But those, since 2013, I mean, we haven't had, is that right? God, I think 20, maybe earlier than that. But we haven't had a standalone Batman movie at least in 7 years, maybe 8 years. I'm trying to think when Dark Knight Rises came out. We haven't had another standalone Batman movie since then. Batman v Superman and Justice League, he's obviously in, but those aren't standalone Batman movies. And we haven't had a standalone
you have
Batman
the Batman
game
coming next year.
Right, and so that'll be after an 8 or 9 year break, right? And we haven't had a standalone Batman game in 6-7 years, and it's this weird thing where DC itself is really blossoming, but arguably kind of the most popular DC character has been this weird thing where he's kind of been a lot more sidelined. Which again, if you're
the Lego Batman
movie
was in 2017, so
yeah,
if you count
weird,
that
question mark how you want to count that, yeah, right. And so it's this weird thing of the DC universe as a whole has kind of blossomed, and you've gotten these cool side character storylines. But if you are someone who is hey, I'd also love a dope Batman story, movie or game, you've been weirdly bereft of that right now. And yeah, obviously the Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves Batman movie comes out next year and it looks great, but it is this weird blank period of I'm pretty sure since the 89 Batman movie, this is the longest gap we've had between Batman films now, standalone Batman movies. And I mean, obviously since Arkham kind of came out, it's been the longest gap between we had Batman games. And I don't know, I think Rocksteady, I totally get it, and them being we told our trilogy of games, we did it, we're done with it, and we want to do something different. I don't know if I would have gone to this direction in the DC universe. For WB Montreal, Arkham Origins is really good, right? If it's not as good as some of the other Arkham games, it's only because the bar is so high for them, but that is still a really good game. And I would have loved to see them take the feedback they got from Origins and take kind of the feedback that Rocksteady got from Arkham Knight and then do their own Batman kind of trilogy of games or whatever they wanted to do, whether it was a new series of Batman games, a Batman Beyond game, a Batman Year One, kind of whatever it was. I'd have loved to see them really kind of build off that. And I don't know, I like Batman. I like Batman stories. I like Batman in my kind of things, and so it is just from that angle. It's kind of disappointing. Suicide Squad, ultimately, my big thing is that I feel like so much DC does almost at this point. I'm oh, okay, that sounds kind of cool. And then 1 minute later, I'll hear the rest of the pitch, and I'm oh, I don't like that second half as much. So where it's I'm not opposed to a Suicide Squad game necessarily. I'm not oh, never, I would hate that. I'm okay, that could be fun. but like I don't need to be chasing down the heroes, right? And like I'm also, to be fair, like per our like 25-minute conversation before we recorded, like Zack Snyder has done a like gloomy, ooh, I'm so mad Superman, and I've had that for like 7 years. Like I'm tired. I'm tapped out of like bad Superman storylines and like angry Superman, and like I don't need that. I don't need another bad Superman. I don't care if he's controlled by Brainiac or not. Like, just give me a nice Superman.
And I did appreciate that to that note, that at least from the Suicide Squad trailer, it looks like it has like a much more bright and poppy kind of like feel to it. Getting out of 100%. Gotham and being in Metropolis. It like, I mean, I thought it the first time, and I saw it going around too on Twitter. Like, I was like, this feels like it has Sunset Overdrive vibes to it.
Yeah,
which
that's the game I was going to.
I loved and was absolutely like underrated on the Xbox One here. And so like it's weird because like that's one of the elements that like that game has way over Gotham Knights for me. It's not enough to like tip the scales in its favor, but it like I appreciate that they're doing something at least brighter, it seems, and with a different color palette.
Yeah, and like on the whole, obviously, like we're still 2 years out from Suicide Squad, so who knows what that game can ultimately be, and still a year out from Gotham Knights or whatever. But
do you think? Sorry to interrupt. Do you think Rocksteady pulled rank? Like, because like we said, like this one is supposed to take place as a direct sequel to effectively to Arkham Knight, which theoretically, spoilers on that game, ended with Bruce dying, or at least like the Batmansion, blowing up or whatever. And so like in this Justice League, is it, does that Justice League that we're killing have that Bruce? I mean, there's already weird things because like Deadshot in Arkham City was white and Deadshot in this game is a black guy, so it's like they're already kind of like playing around with certain
multiple
things.
Deadshots.
Or they just are saying like, we've just redesigned the character, which I don't care one way or the other, honestly. It's like, cool, that's fine. But like how it ties into the like established Arkham stuff is very intriguing to me. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if like Rocksteady said like, well, we want to keep playing in that sandbox, and you guys want to do this Gotham Knights thing? Well, it really hurt us because we want to do certain things over here, so can you not? And so like I wonder if that's why theirs specifically isn't in the Arkhamverse, and they had to, maybe Batman dying is from a pitch where it started in the Arkhamverse, but now it's its own thing and it exists outside of it, and that's how they can play around with the Court of Owls or whatever. And so it's just I wonder if like Rocksteady pulled rank there to say like, well, because you see this all over the case in like DC properties. I remember like it was a thing in the Arrowverse where because they were making the Suicide Squad movie, they kind of had to pull away from the Suicide Squad storyline that they were exploring and they teased in like early seasons of Arrow. And so it's like, well, okay. And like even, what was it? Batman has been like, they can't use Batman in the Arrowverse now. Like that's been confirmed as a result of like some of this stuff. So it's like, okay, well, that's weird that like different branches of DC aren't playing nicely, but I wonder if that's just another case of what's happening here, is that like, because it's also just really weird that they're doing these two games that at the surface level feel very similar. Just like, in one you're playing as the heroes and one you're playing as the villains, different storylines and stuff, but like co-op Batman things that aren't Batman, I feel like the games are going to almost cannibalize themselves. And so it's just another weird, like, they got to clearly be like trying to build out enough distance between the two in the same way that like you had Days Gone and then, Last of Us a year later or something like that. So people could get over that, like, but they're two zombie games thing. And so it's just there's just a lot of like behind the scenes businessy stuff here I'm very curious about.
So first off, 100%, I think that's exactly what Rocksteady did, because there's no reason for this game on the face of it to be set in the Arkhamverse. It doesn't make any sense. Like, if you were just to look at these two games and show them to somebody and not tell them that information, everyone would assume Gotham Knights is set in the Arkhamverse. I mean, literally, Arkham Knight ends with the Batmansion blown up, like you said. Like, when I first saw the trailer, I was like, oh, this takes place directly after this game. Like, it is, like, the follow-up to this game. And then you find out afterwards where it's like, nope, that's not the case. And it's like, it is, like, literally, like, I think 100% that's what Rocksteady did. And, like, to be fair, like, you know, they did the Arkham games, so, like, they could do whatever the hell they want, I guess, in that regard. They can pull their rank if they want. But, like, it is tonally, this game is so far removed from the Arkham games and Suicide Squad that it's like, it just seems weird that they'd want to do it. And also seems weird because, like, if that's the case, like, they ended, I would argue, twice they ended the Arkham series very definitively with Arkham City, which is IMO the stronger ending, and also Arkham Knight. Like, they ended that, but either way they ended, like, that's a very contained series of games. They ended it, and it's very, we've done that story, it's done. So, like, why not just be like, we're just doing another DC game, it's not set in the Arkhamverse, it's Superman, all the other characters, Suicide Squad, we're just doing a DC video game. It has nothing to do with the Arkham games. And people have been like, okay, sure, you ended that, and it's a new thing. And it's, like, weird to try to connect it because, like, are we going to go to Gotham at some point? And, like, is Bruce in this game? Are we going to see Batman? Like, there's no reason to, like, it's just, like, it's a very weird decision to do that. And it ties into something that I saw Gene Park, who's one of the video game editors over at the Washington Post, and he had to think about how, like, there's so many different Bat people, like Batmen, at this moment, and none of them are connected, and it's just such a weird, strange decision. Like, why? Like, DC just, like, to your point about, like, the Arrowverse and, like, the movies and games and TV shows just not get along. And, like, even within, like, I feel like even within DC, like, we have so many Batman. Like, Ben Affleck is gonna be in a Batman movie, while Robert Pattinson is Batman,
as Michael Keaton is.
While Michael Keaton is Batman, while we have a new Batman video game Batman, while the old Batman video game Batman might still be in this other game. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, why are you making it so unnecessarily complicated? Like, it doesn't need to be like this, DC. Like, you can make this a way easier to understand series of Bat people. Like it's not this hard to make it to where, like, yeah, he can just pop into this thing and do this thing and then pop out and go. And, like, it's really not hard, actually. And, like, you're making it way more difficult, seemingly, than it needs to be. And, like, that could really describe the last, like, 7 or 8 years of DC's decisions. But I don't know. Like, I 100% think they pulled rank. I think that, like, even now, we're like, I know which one is set in the Arkhamverse. I'm like, Gotham Knights is, like, the spiritual sequel to Arkham Knight then. And Suicide Squad is just, like, a random game. Like, it feels like set in the same universe as, like, as like the fucking, like, Kevin Smith, like, a Skewerverse, where it's like they're set in the same universe, but, like, they don't, like, not really, like, they're pretty, like, Dogma and, you know, like, Clerks aren't that connected really. And, like, well, that's maybe not the best example, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're, like, these movies are in the same universe, but not, like, that interconnected here. And it's like, it just kind of happening somewhere else. And it's like, but, like, we don't need that. Like, I don't need this to be in the same universe as Arkham because it's very different. And I have no reason to think that, like, is Robin or Nightwing going to be in the Suicide Squad game? Is Batman going to be in the Suicide Squad game? Is he, like, there's just so many decisions where it's like, they just wanted this to be set in the Arkham universe. Or to be fair, like, maybe somebody at DC did because they're like, Rocksteady's a bigger team and people know them better. So we want that to be the game that is set in the Arkhamverse still. But, like, it just seems like a very weird decision based off what we know at this moment about these two games. I will say that for sure. Any final thoughts on either one of these games, Trev?
I mean, like I said, like, I'll play them both. Like, I plan on playing them both. I plan on hopefully enjoying them both.
Yeah.
But I'm not, like, none of this really got me over the moon. I was like, yeah, I need to jump into those. And like, I've seen a lot of people, like, compelled over the last couple of days to go back and start and just, like, replay the Arkham stuff. And I'm like, it didn't get me to do that. like I kind of want to go back to those games at some point because those are really good games.
Same.
But as soon as I think about that, I'm like,
that Nerdy Site book club.
Well, there's that. I've got some ideas on something like that I'm kicking around here, but it's also just like immediately thinking and being like, 200 Riddler trophies, no, bad, no, don't do it, no. And so yeah, I'm just like I like Arkham Asylum, easily like a bite size kind of like that. You can do that in kind of a day kind of a game experience. But yeah, like City and Night just became so ballooned out that I'm like, I don't really know if I'm eager to jump back into those at the moment. But yeah, it like if these had been more interesting or more compelling games, maybe I would have been more inclined to want to revisit kind of the glory days of the old Arkham stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Arkham Asylum, like you said, it's not bad to get those Riddler trophies because that map is so small and self-contained, and again, like, because I think Arkham City is a better video game than Arkham Asylum, but like even I was like, I'm never gonna this, like, it's just there's so many nooks and crannies, it's so much bigger, there's so many like I'm never gonna get all of the Riddler trophies. I'm okay with that. Arkham Knight, I was like, fuck that.
I think I have. I think I've actually gotten all of the Riddler trophies in all those games, on like the PS3 versions, or
I did for Arkham Asylum.
Arkham Knight would have been the PS4 version. I think the thing I didn't do was like all the challenge rooms. I think that's what has kept me from the platinums in some of those games.
Yeah, for sure. Like, because again, Arkham Asylum was the third video game I ever played on the PS3, and I did it like over at the time with like the college break, basically, like in between semesters, like winter and fall, or winter and spring, I guess. And like I like dove into that game. Like I did everything I could possibly did in a way like I didn't really play video games that much like that at the time. Or even now, like I sunk into Arkham Asylum, and like every like 6 months for like years afterwards, I would just like pop in and just like dick around and like do more of the challenge maps, and like eventually I got all the trophies pretty quickly, but like I mean all the Riddler trophy things quickly, but like just popping in and do like more of the challenge maps, and I've beaten Arkham Asylum like 3 or 4 times. I've beaten it. I mean, I've only beaten City I think twice, and I've only beaten Night once, but I just kept going back and playing Arkham Asylum again and again and again. But like what has kept me to this day from the platinum is the fact that like those final few challenge room things for Arkham Asylum, in particular, like the stealth ones actually aren't terrible. Like they get hard, but like it's doable. But like the actual fighting ones, like you have to rack up such insanely high combos and have to have that's perfect combos. We have to do like every single one of the possible like counters. It's just like I'm someone who like I can like play Arkham Asylum like blindfolded at times, but like that is like such an impossible task. Where it's like this is just fucking bullshit. Like these are bad trophies at the end of this game here.
Yeah. You just absolutely triggered like a PTSD flashback of trying to get those combat trophies
for years.
And I never did.
And like it's just that thing of like, not to make this into a topic of like bad trophies, although there's a topic for a future episode, but like it's one of just like the margin of error is literally zero. Like, especially for like the one where it's like if you do like a flawless combo, do like every single possible like combo counter, like throw every gadget thing on like one go, and it's just like like it's just easy to forget what buttons make the combos because there are like 20, all without also trying to not get hit to ruin the combo, and also never stop moving so you stop the combo. And it's like it's just such an insane like it just gets really wild and
and like, keeping track of which like attacks or gadgets you use in the combo, because that was the one I remember. It was like because it was like you do like every finisher and every gadget in a flawless combo or something like that, and it was just I would constantly just be like, I don't remember which one I haven't done anymore.
And like that was like it was one of the first games on that generation where like I was like pulling up guides and wikis and being like, all right, cool. And I'd have the list up on like my phone next to me, and then we'd start it and be like, well, I can't look at my phone while I'm doing the combos, though, is the problem. So like it doesn't help me out at all. Like I don't like it's just it's a bad trophy. This is gonna become an episode now. It's such a bad
Yeah.
The bad
Yeah,
trophies.
I'm looking at that trophy from Arkham Knight. Perform 15 different combat moves in one free flow, and I'm like, nope, didn't ever get that one.
Yep. And so that's what's kept me from getting the platinum in that. Because I've done because I literally 100% of the actual game. It's just the combat trophies are the ones like outside of that I just couldn't ever finish. But anyway, this is not the episode where we talk about the best and more likely the worst trophies. Trevor,
Screw you, Fall Guys. Screw you, Fall Guys.
Oh, dude.
That fucking infallible trophy.
Yep.
I have a couple shout outs. In particular, it kind of related to the second story there, talking about Suicide Squad. In advance of the reveal, news kind of broke last week after we recorded last week's episode. Stories came out. The Guardian posted a story, and then basically a former writer from Rocksteady kind of came out and said, I wrote the letter, and that's did this very heartbreaking 13-minute YouTube video in response to Rocksteady immediately denying all the claims and stuff. I have a shout out to the article that kind of kicked it off from the Guardian. Games firm Rocksteady accused of inaction over staff harassment, written by Alex Hern, the UK technology editor over there at the Guardian. And then the follow-up after that included the writer's response from GamesIndustry.biz. Ex-Rocksteady writer asks for name to be left off Suicide Squad credits. And that was and it includes a link in that one to the 13-minute YouTube video from Kim McCaskill, who was a senior writer for Rocksteady working on Suicide Squad that left a couple years ago, and basically kind of shared her story of just the sexual harassment that she and many of her other female coworkers kind of experienced there, and Rocksteady's refusal to really do anything about it, and basically the fact that she got pushed out of the company because she didn't let it lie. Very unfortunate stuff, and it will absolutely kind of color my view of Suicide Squad when it eventually comes out. It's one of those stories that we see all too often right now, and just seeing it's I don't want to. Because even she says she doesn't there are so many good developers there that she wants that work to be celebrated still, but I will have significant issue with kind of the management at Rocksteady being celebrated for that game as a result of kind of the stories that have come out of this. So wanted to give a shout out. Both of them are very good reads, and definitely sit down and watch the 13-minute YouTube video that she put together if you have time.
Yes, absolutely. I will agree to all of that. But with that, that's the episode, guys. You made it, guys and girls. Thank you for listening. Appreciate that word. Episode 17 now. We're nearing 18. News you care about is about to become legal. Only a few more until we can drink. If you like what you heard, be sure to support us over at patreon.com/thatnerdysite, like all of our wonderful patrons have. They keep the lights on. We couldn't do this without them, and they make shows like That News You Care About actually come to fruition and happen. And so we're incredibly thankful for them and all the support they've given us these past 9 months. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, tell your grandma, tell your grandpa, tell everyone about the show, and rate and review us on iTunes and podcast services around the globe. It really does help, especially for newer shows like this one. We're trying to get into the top 500 of Australian video game podcast, and really would help a lot if you could do that for us. You can find Trevor over at Trevor J. Starkey on the internet. Trevor, anything you want to say?
I mean, if we're trying to get in the top 500 of Australian podcasts, I suppose I'd have to go in and change our metadata on the back end to flag us as an Australian podcast.
Hell yeah.
And I don't really.
It starts right now.
I don't really know how to do that, but I guess we're coming for you, Jack Cruz.
Oh, wow. There's a shout out.
I don't know. As for actual kind of plugs, check out this week's that nerdy site show. Cameron and I sat down and talked about these games as well as everything else kind of that came out of DC fandom, as well as just the other handful of games that we've been sitting down and playing. In particular, I talk a lot about Spiritfarer, which is the newest game from Thunder Lotus, which is really good, and I strongly recommend. So check that episode out.
Yes, you can go find me at Luffy Logie on the internet. I will also second Trev's shout out of that. I will also yet again give him a shout out for his Fall Guys ranking piece. I played more Fall Guys last week. Game's real good, obviously, and I don't agree with Trevor's rankings. Certainly in the bottom half. But it's on my mind because I saw someone else have a piece today ranking the Fall Guys minigames, and so I'm thinking about that yet again and how both great that game is. Still looking for my first win. Made it to the final round a few times. It's definitely a thing of not to be like this guy, but those team games, they're like the bane of my existence. Actually, I was doing not to step in my soapbox here, but I'm gonna step in my Fall Guys soapbox. Yesterday I was playing and I finished in the top 5 the first round, finished in the top 10 or whatever the second round, and then the third round was the egg hunting mini game.
Yeah.
And I was on the yellow team, and I think it might have been my first time ever on the yellow team, and I got to see just the absolute everyone just targeted us. It was a thing because we started in my the yellow team actually we had 10 eggs, and the blue team had 15, and the red team had 3. So I was like, all right, cool. We're all going to go target the red team now. And instead, blue and red together just went and attacked yellow. And I was like, this is bullshit, man. We ended the entire game with 1 egg, and I was like, this is trash. This is just not, I was like, this is so frustrating. Nothing I did impacted this game and me getting eliminated.
Yeah,
but I did win.
I encountered that too for the first time, where I definitely felt the memes that the Fall Guy account themselves have been kind of putting forth of the yellow team sucks. I definitely have started feeling that in the games themselves, that everybody just attacks the yellow, which sucks because I feel like I'm often on the yellow team.
Yeah,
so I'm constantly fighting against that.
It was nice though because I got the trophy for winning a team game by 1 in a game of Jinxed, and it was actually it was really cool because my team was actually down by, I think we only had 1 person that hadn't been infected yet or whatever, and they had 5 who still hadn't been infected. So we were actually down by 4, and then wound up winning that game. So it was really cool to have that come back and pop the trophy for winning a game by 1, and that was nice at least though. But man, that other time, those team games.
I don't remember that being a trophy. Cool.
Yeah, it's win a team game by a score of 1.
Okay.
And so I popped that.
I definitely knew there was one of there's the by the skin of your teeth or something, and it's win a team game after you've gone into overtime. I
haven't got that one yet.
Okay.
But yes, so I shout out Trevor's Fall Guys piece. Go check that out, and we will have more things to check out as well. You can go follow That Nerdy Site at That Nerdy Site. The site's got all kinds of exciting, fun things. We are going to have a team meeting at some point in time soon, plotting out the next month or 2 or 3 until the big anniversary. So look forward to all kinds of great content over at That Nerdy Site. And with that said, that's the show. Thank you for listening, and play games and be good to each other.